I love filming videos sitting on the floor. It's just so fun. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you haven't watched any of my other videos, my name's Emma. I'm really excited for this video. So today we're gonna talk about something a bit more serious, but definitely really important, and something that's really close to my heart and has been a big part of my life, I would say, for the past few years. So today we're going to be talking about 7 lessons I've learned in the 7-ish years I've been in therapy. So first I'm just going to talk about just kind of like my therapy journey, if you will. So I've only had 2 therapists in my life. So I started going to therapy around 8th or 7th grade. It was around the time that my dad was diagnosed with cancer. So both my parents had passed away, if you didn't know. So my mom just wanted me to process my dad having cancer. We were pretty sure he was gonna die. So my mom sent me to therapy, and I really didn't want to go. I sometimes would like cry about it before I had to go because it was very difficult for me at first. But eventually I started really liking it and started really liking my first therapist. So her name's Kim. I love her. If you're in the Virginia Beach area, Kim Small is her name if you want to go see her, because she's amazing. So Kim was super helpful for me because, well, she was my therapist both when my dad and my mom passed away. So she was really there for everything, and I was so sad to leave her. So I had to get a new therapist when I went to college because like therapists, their license doesn't cross state borders, so they're not supposed to like see patients that live in other states. Yeah, so I left therapy with Kim in like August when I went to college, and it was very hard for me to find a new therapist. Like most were full in San Francisco where I go to college, or it wasn't a good fit with others. So that was really difficult not having a therapist for that span of time, and like moving to college is such a big transition, so it was difficult. But eventually I did find a new therapist who I've been with for like not too long, like 2.5 months or so, and her name's Virginia. She's amazing too. I love her. She's definitely different than Kim. Like she's very like a little bit out there, but like in a good way. Like just we do like different exercises that are like really good and cool, but like if someone saw them, it'd be like, what are you doing? Like you're like making a weird sound into a pillow, which is something I did last week. But anyway, but yeah, I'm very happy to have found Virginia, and I love her too. She's a queen. So that's my journey of therapy, and now I want to talk about the most important lessons I've learned. So the first lesson I would say that I've learned is that you're not in charge of anyone else's feeling. I think it's definitely easy to just want to try to please everyone, but what we don't realize is that by doing this, like we can't make everyone happy, and I don't think that we should be taking on other people's emotions as like we caused it, because like obviously you can do certain things to make people feel a certain way, but ultimately it's not you that caused those feelings, because all our feelings and our emotions are our own. So a lot of times I've struggled with being vulnerable to other people because it's like I don't want to make them sad or make them have to, I guess, carry what I'm going through. But another thing that therapy has taught me in the same realm is that you have to trust that other people have the resources to deal with what you're telling them and to deal with the emotions that they're going to have. But ultimately, it's not really your problem if you tell someone the truth about how they've been being like toxic to you and they feel sad. Like you just have to be able to trust that they can deal with that, but it's not your fault that those emotions came up. You're just not in charge of anyone else's emotions. Second lesson I've learned is super important, and these are in no particular order, by the way. They're just randomly laid out, but this is a big one, and it's that if you don't deal with your emotions, if you don't deal with your trauma, it won't just go away. You're going to just bottle it up, and if you just try to push things further and further down, it's going to eventually explode out in your actions and how you treat other people. And a lot of the times it won't even be controllable because these emotions have just been pent up and they're going to leak out in different ways and in ways that you probably don't want to happen. So I think it's really important that I'm doing a lot of this in therapy right now, just to be able to sit with your emotions and just really relax and not have any judgment for your emotions. And I think I've dealt with a lot of that and a lot of oh, I should be better by now, or I should be done grieving by now, or I shouldn't have to be in therapy anymore, which is not a good mindset. So my camera keeps dying and I want to cry because I don't know when it turns off, and then I don't know what I was saying. But anyway, we're gonna get back to it. It's gonna be okay. And I like this closer approach, more personal. So yeah, like I was saying, I think it's just when you are really able to sit with your emotions and not judge them, that's the best way that you can process your emotions and not let them build up to when they spill out in other ways. And when you're angry and you don't know why, or you're being really mean to others, or whatever ways that your emotions might come out. And I think another thing with judging myself for emotions is, like I said, also judging myself for going to therapy and feeling like, oh, I should be done with therapy, or I should be better in some way or another. I should be less depressed. So that goes with the third lesson, which is being vulnerable is not weak and going to therapy is not weak. Yeah, because I think there's also a big belief in people that you have to be super depressed to go to therapy, or you have to have a bunch of trauma or things like that, which really isn't true, because I think literally everyone needs therapy, and I could definitely name some people that I would send to therapy right now. But I think it's actually a really, really strong and powerful thing to choose for yourself to go to therapy and have that resource that you can take advantage of, because going to therapy means that you're taking your happiness into your own hands, and that you want to work through your trauma or work through your faults and just deal with your emotions. So yeah, I think therapy is amazing, obviously, and everyone should go to it. Also, especially when I have not really liked therapy, or just even when I have had a good week or a good 2 weeks, I'll be oh, I think I'm done with therapy. Yeah, I don't really need this anymore. And my therapist will be girl, no, your mom died 2 months ago. But yeah, so I don't think therapy is just for when you're really depressed, really anxious, but it's something that's always good for you. And also, therapy is very proactive, so instead of just getting help when you're really depressed or really struggling or going through something, if you have already gone to therapy, you already have a relationship with a therapist that you trust, and you'll also, by going to therapy, be building up more tools for yourself that you can use when you're going through difficult things. And then my next point is you need to take happiness into your own hands. And I think this is something that you learn as you grow up and become more independent, but the therapy has definitely helped me understand, because if you don't have deep joy or deep peace, then whatever you're going through is just going to mess you up. And obviously, yeah, things are gonna happen and you're gonna be really sad about things. Obviously that's okay, but you shouldn't let what's going on completely dictate your happiness. And I don't think you should rely on other people for your happiness either, because other people will come and go, but you're always gonna have yourself. And making sure that you're happy just with yourself, I think, is something really, really important for people to recognize. And yeah, not having to rely on certain things for your happiness. Yeah, and I think taking happiness into your own hands also leads to the next lesson, which is that you need to set boundaries with yourself and with other people. And what I've learned is that you should not 100% waste your time with like people that don't build you up, or people that are toxic, or just people that aren't good for you. And I think that something that goes along with this is that just because you decide to spend less time with someone or cut someone out, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person, or that they're horrible, or they don't deserve to have friends, whatever. But it just means that you two didn't work. And I think that's totally fine. That's totally normal. And I think cutting people out, like, seems to feel so harsh, but I'm totally down to cut anyone out. Like, I don't see the problem. I've cut a few people out of my life, which I'm proud of, and I think that's led to me being more happy, and I've taken my happiness into my own hands. So for example, there was a family friend. She was one of my mom's friends. So after my mom passed away, we like hung out occasionally, but one time when we were hanging out, she just said some like really horrible things to me. And well, she was kind of like victim blaming me, and she wasn't, what's the word? And I texted her and I was like, hey, like, I don't like how, you know, how you spoke to me, and invalidated is the word. But yeah, I said, you really invalidated a lot of what I went through. And, you know, obviously she's gonna like apologize and, you know, be like, I didn't mean it. But that was really eye-opening and really toxic to me, and I didn't want to put up with that, so I cut her out. And I don't really see that as a problem. I also have 2 grandparents that are also pretty toxic. Yeah, they can be manipulative and just aren't the best people. And so I've just distanced myself from them because like they just don't build me up at all. Like obviously they are my grandparents, so it's sad, but I just know my time is precious, and it's just not worth my time to be spending it with people who don't build me up and people who don't serve me. So I think therapy has taught me that you should really look at how you're spending your time and who you're wasting your time on. And it's definitely hard to have really high standards with the people you spend your time with. And I think a lot of times this can come with being lonely for times, because like if you just don't put up with people who are toxic or who you just don't really get along with, then you might be lonely for some time, but that's okay, because I mean, through this, I found like my 2 very best friends, and you know, they're obviously not toxic, and we just have the best conversations. And I think it's through cutting those people out that you can make room for people who are really incredible and who are gonna love you for who you are and just appreciate you. And I think something that goes along with this as well, so this is the next lesson that I've learned, is to question your thoughts. So I think a lot of times, either by how we feel or people pleasing or by society's standards, we feel like we can't do certain things. Like, for example, cutting people out. You might be like, oh no, like I can't cut that person out. Like she was my mom's friend, whatever. My therapist was like, why? You know, like what's the reasoning? And think about if that reasoning really has power, because I think that your happiness is above everything else, and these reasons really are just because you don't want to, you know, cause trouble or go against, I guess, social norms. But I just don't need those. I don't need them. I think your thoughts about things may not have good backing or reasoning, and you don't really realize that. Like for me personally, a lot of things, like I've been like, oh, like I hate when this person does that. Like I know it doesn't really affect me, but it's just so annoying, whatever. And think about why that is. Like, why do you hate that? And like maybe it comes back to you, and maybe it's an insecurity or something you haven't dealt with or something you need to communicate with another person, but that thought doesn't have real backing. So I think it's really good to question why you're having certain thoughts and what your reasoning for things is. And then the last thing is, it's not really a lesson, but it's just something I want to talk about that I've done a lot of in therapy, and it's called EMDR. So it stands for Eye Movement Desensitization Response. I don't know what the R is. So it's basically this thing where it's working to stimulate your left brain and your right brain, like back and forth, and it's supposed to help you process like really deep trauma or deep emotions. So there's multiple ways you can do it, but the way that I've done it is you're holding like two little like kind of like computer mouses, and then they just beep like left and right, and then you close your eyes, or buzz, not beep. You let them buzz for like, I don't know, 10, 20 seconds. Of course, this is with the therapist, so like they'll stop it. And then something normally like comes up when they're buzzing, whether it's, and it might be something random, like, you know, an elephant running across a bare field or something like that. Or it might be like something that's happened in your life. And also normally you are working with a certain belief you hold. Like what I talked about before is I should be better. So it'll be like, you'll think about I should be better, and then you'll maybe think of like a certain thing that's happened that might bring that emotion up. And so you'll think about those, and then it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does this bother you? And you'll think about different emotions that holds, and then you'll buzz. And it's really cool, actually. It is like a lot of, you know, it's a lot of working through and processing stuff, so it is like difficult, but it's really definitely cool. And it sounds weird, but like I really do believe it works, and it's like been really cool to see like what is brought up and like how that relates back to the false belief I was holding and whatever I was thinking about. I think that, yeah, that's definitely really helped me process things. So my current therapist is also certified EMDR. So I don't know if you already have a therapist, they may or may not know about EMDR, but I think that's a really cool thing. Yeah, and those are the 7 lessons I've learned in therapy. I encourage you, if you've been wanting to see a therapist and you're worried about money, or you're worried about asking your parents or whatever, that you do it, because you won't regret it, and it's so amazing to have a really good relationship with a therapist. Yeah, but thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this different, deeper, more serious type of video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, love you. Yes, queen, yes. There are no words coming out. And my next point, I don't remember. She was, what's the word? She was, who love grows from her rosemary girl is still loud. Yeah, is that all?